You've entered BOOKSTORM with Kristen Civiletto and me, Chris Storm. This is a podcast devoted to best-selling books that matter, books that make a difference. We're diving down deep with beloved authors about their stories. We're exposing hot-button topics and heartfelt themes, the issues that affect each of us in our own lives, as siblings, parents, partners, friends, as human beings. We're braving new ideas, fresh thoughts, hard lessons, and important truths. Those kinds of things that stay with us long after we turn the last page and close the book. Well, welcome back to BOOKSTORM Podcast, book lovers. Kristen and I are really excited about who we have with us here today because not only are we big fans of her writing, but she was one of our very first guests when we started BOOKSTORM. We have the very talented Jessica Strawser. Thank you for coming on with us today.
Thank you so much for having me back. And I didn't even realize that last time was so early in your run. So this is
Well, we probably tried to keep it a little secret. You were only our fourth. You were our fourth author at the time, right after Lisa Wingate, and we fell in love with your book. We're so happy to have you back on here. Just going to tell our listeners we're here today with a new release called Catch You Later. The podcast will air on Pub Day, and we're super excited. Now, before we get started, I like to tell our listeners a little bit about you because it's always fun to hear about your background. Jessica is the editor-at-large and columnist for Writer's Digest, where she served as editorial director for nearly a decade and then became known for her in-depth cover interviews with luminaries like David Sedaris and Alice Walker. Wow. So you're good at interviews too.
Well, I'm a little rusty these days.
Okay.
So
Well, we're happy you're good at writing. So that's mainly why we're here. Also, I want to say that you are the author of a lot of book club favorites, and you've had accolades, and I've got to name a few. Barnes & Noble Best New Fiction Pick, Book of the Month, and starred review by Publishers Weekly, a standout starred book list review, and most anticipated lists from Goodreads, She Reads, Frolic, E-News, People Magazine pick for best novel, Amazon editor pick. Oh my goodness. And it is no surprise because we know when we open one of your books, we're getting something heartfelt, filled with a lot of relationships and some very deep issues that we're all going to think about that resonate with us. So thank you so much, Jessica. So happy to have you back.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for making me sound so good when you say it out loud like that.
Well, Jessica, as Chris mentioned, we're here to talk about Catch You Later, your newest release, and we are so excited about it. I'd like to give our listeners a little bit of what's going on in the background of the story. I won't give away any spoilers, I promise. And if you want to add anything at the end, please do so. Now, in this story, we meet Lark and Mickey. They are best friends. They have been since they were young. And we're in about the 2016 range when the story opens. They are working the night shift at a highway travel stop, and they're feeling a bit stuck. They want some excitement. They want to get out of this town. And in fact, they have two rules that they live by. And I want to just read this very quickly. Say yes to anything and keep your eyes open for a ride out. Now, a stranger one day drops in and he's heading to a wedding in Florida. And Mickey, very impulsively and in accordance with the rules they live by, she agrees to be his plus one. And she's not seen again. Now, 8 years later, Lark is finally trying to get her life back together. She has a daughter. She is taking care of Mickey's grandma, who has become her own family. And people have mostly stopped blaming Lark for the disappearance of Mickey. But she has had a lot to bear. She has looked for her. She has done everything she could do. Now, she is engaged to a very nice man who is a highway patrol member, and he acts as a very stabilizing force for her in many respects. But suddenly one day, the stranger who had picked up Mickey reappears, and it throws everything into turmoil. Now the search is back on, and a lot of things have to be untangled and unraveled. But we see this story from both Mickey and Lark's viewpoint, which is one of the fascinating things about this book that I just loved. And I know Chris did too. Did you want to add anything to the story?
Well, that was really good. If you want to actually come along with me to all of my tour events and explain it for me, that would be
I'm
amazing.
there. I'm there.
Yeah, they're in the middle of nowhere, really. I live in Ohio. I live in Cincinnati, but if you drive too far out of any city center in Ohio along one of the interstates, there are lots of rural exits where there might be a traffic stop, there might be a gas station, there's not a whole lot else there. And they live in such a place, and there's definitely this feeling of life literally passing them by while they work, on the side of the interstate. And the feeling that everyone that they interact with all day is on their way somewhere, but they are very stuck. So yeah, I think you set it up very well.
Excellent.
That is a cool visual, isn't it? That has a lot of meaning to it. There you are at a gas station and everyone's going by on the way to somewhere supposedly exciting. Well, Mickey did exactly what every mother tells their daughter not to do. Get in the car with a stranger, right? Even a nice stranger. Your character showed us that some people hide their true selves. Now, I thought about this. We all do from time to time, don't we? Maybe without consciously realizing it. We don't automatically open ourselves up to people. But your cast of wonderful characters here made the reader wonder, how can we feel we know someone that we just met? Can we? But also, let's take the flip. How can we feel we know someone that we've known for years and years? And maybe we don't.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion on this? Is it them? Is it us? Or maybe it's both of us.
Well, Lark and Mickey are in this little town where everybody feels like they know their neighbors too. And, not a lot is getting by anyone else. There's not a lot going on. So not a lot is getting by anyone else undetected. So of course, everyone else is going to have an opinion. And it's not so much that this situation is really challenging what they knew about Mickey, which is actually what makes it so hard. So as you said, yes, she did what everyone's mom tells them not to do when she got in a stranger's car, but she was also following her own rule that she had with Lark, where like their only taste of excitement in this town is like their idea of a good time is that they work the night shift in the travel stop. Like at first their boss doesn't want to let them do it. And at first they're right out of high school and they're staying out it's their way of staying out all night, and anyone asks them to do anything, they say yes, it's their rule. And so in a way, the fact that Mickey accepts this ride and, he's on his way to the ocean, she's never seen the ocean. She's never been out of her part of the Midwest. And it's no secret that she's not happy there and that she wants out. But it's almost like she called her own bluff. When she never comes back, even Lark has to grapple with, well, I mean, I feel like she wouldn't have not come back without saying goodbye. But on the other hand, if she got a chance to keep going, she was probably going to take it. And maybe it was too hard to come back and say goodbye. So she's really kind of grappling with, is she exactly what she always said she was, doing exactly what she's always going to say, and maybe our relationship didn't mean quite as much, or maybe it was easier this way. It's not, and everybody else kind of has that too. I mean, they can't even necessarily make a strong case to the police that she's missing. They're like, well, what would she come back here for if she got a ride with a rich guy to someplace way nicer?
And part of us can't blame her. A little bit we couldn't blame her because he's a super nice looking guy, a very personable guy. And it did sound like a pretty good opportunity. I'm not giving spoilers. It still may have been. We don't know. We're not saying either way. But it did make us think that, I guess my other point might be, we can't judge each other just by looking at each other. Somebody that you first met. I've done that incorrectly several times. I don't know. It's very intriguing because it makes us think about our own lives.
Well, I think that's exactly what happens to Mickey and to Chris, the guy who offers her the ride, and no spoilers from me either, but, it sounds spontaneous and fun. And then they are driving to Florida all night, the two of them alone in a car, nothing too spontaneous and fun about like sitting next to someone in a car for 10 hours trying to make small talk, so they very quickly have this sense of, oh, what have we done? But, yeah. So your initial impressions of someone and how they're wrong, and even the people you think you've known all your life, when push comes to shove, are they going to do what you thought? Yeah. Those were kind of some fun ideas to play with as I was putting the story together.
Love it.
I loved some of the internal and external challenges that Lark was dealing with. And one of the things that she was really wrestling with is she wanted to show people that she could make it as a single mother and that she didn't need anyone. But we see where maybe it would have been better to learn to trust or rely upon others, maybe even including Heath, her new boyfriend. Um, and I love that he said he thought that learning to trust started by showing people grace, showing one another grace. And I wanted to ask you about that because, that seemed very important to the growth of their relationship. What do you say?
Yeah, I think Lark and Mickey sort of had this idea that they, neither of them are from a very good family, very nice family, very stable family, and they lean very, very heavily on each other. And when Mickey's gone, Lark kind of, when Mickey doesn't come back, Lark kind of realizes she needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. And regardless of what Mickey's reasons were, or if she's going to walk back through the door tomorrow, maybe she was leaning on her a little bit too hard. I think she actually has to kind of prove to herself that she can stand on her own 2 feet before she can be in a position where she can learn to trust Heath or anyone else. At first, she really doesn't have a lot of options for who else to trust when Mickey doesn't come back. But then she slowly, as you said, she has no choice. And Heath is sort of an interesting choice for her from the start because, she never could get law enforcement to take her seriously, that anything was wrong when Mickey didn't come back. And, maybe didn't even push as hard as she could have, ended up just kind of taking on her own search because she felt also kind of embarrassed. Like maybe Mickey really didn't. I don't actually know if she's missing. I just think she might be missing. She didn't come back, So the idea that the man she's engaged to has come in knowing after all of that, showing her a lot of grace. That's all kind of in the past. And then when the driver comes back at the beginning of the story and she realizes this is all going to be unearthed again, I think they know from the start that they're going to have to show each other a lot of grace because there's no question that it's going to challenge and pressure their own relationship as well, just because of
Absolutely.
who they are.
Well, I love that Heath would prompt her and push her just a little bit out of her comfort zone in a very respectful way. And it was such a great role that he had in this story. Very well done.
Thank you very much. He was a lot of fun to write. I actually interviewed a real state trooper to try to get a sense of what his mentality might have been in that situation. So that was a really wild hypothetical situation to hit a real state trooper with. And he really humored me and spent a lot of time talking to me and was super helpful.
Excellent.
Oh, I bet that was
Mm.
interesting.
It
I
was super interesting. Yeah.
I love when Mickey and Lark were best of friends, like sisters. I liked when Lark, still believing, not sure, is Mickey still out there? Is she not still out there? Either way, she thought she saw little signs from her. Little things were happening, and she thought Mickey was still caring about her in some way. Lark even thought maybe Mickey had passed over into some adjacent spiritual plane where she could whisper her wishes into the universe and make them known. Now, I think we can all relate to this, whether someone is missing or whether we've lost a loved one. We think we see little signs. Did Mickey want and need to believe that her friend was sending signs and still loved her? Or I'm going to put this out there. Maybe love does exist in other planes that we can't see. I liked that quote.
I think you put your finger on it exactly when you said we can all relate. I think for me, it's relatable. Like you said, whether somebody is alive or maybe not even missing, just not with us. We've always heard that stories of those stories of like a mom will wake up in the middle of the night and feel like something's wrong and call her kid halfway across the world to make sure they're okay. And maybe they're not okay. And then it feels like, somehow they sensed it, they sent a sign, or just, someone we love passes on and we hear a certain song on the radio. And, I think we all like to look for those signs in the universe. And like you said, do we want to? Do we need to? Is it a coping mechanism that we're using to make ourselves feel better? Or is there some truth to it? I don't think anybody really knows, but I definitely think we all do it. And especially in Lark's situation, since she doesn't know if Mickey is alive or dead, she has to really kind of open herself to just this sort of Zen. If she's out there somewhere in any form, I'm choosing to believe that she's sending me these little signs, even though I know it might just be coincidences that I'm reading too much into.
I liked that because I want to believe that. Don't we all want to believe that? That we're more than just a body in the universe, but that we are like a spiritual being and that we can love from afar and sense things, especially as moms. I think Kristen and I can both relate to that. Not staying though, I do have my daughter on my iPhone location finder. And when she's around New York City, I track her the whole time. And I'm like, okay, there she is. I'm using some other things, not just spiritual, to find her.
Oh, that's funny.
But you said they're like sisters, and I think that was something I thought a lot about as I was crafting this story of two lifelong friends who have always been so close that they think of each other as sisters. It's interesting to me how that's a thing we'll often say about our friends, not just women. Men might say he's like my brother, but often with friendship, I mean, there is a difference. There is a line where there's a difference. It's not your brother, and you might rearrange your whole life for what a significant other wants or for what your sister or your mom wants if they need your help. But most people don't do that for a friend. If anything, if our friends want a goal that's very different from what we want out of life, we encourage them to go get it and leave us behind. We really, that's really what we do. Friendship it's a little bit different, and whether it should be or it shouldn't be, there is a little bit of a difference there. And I think that's something that Lark has to grapple with after she's gone too. I thought we were like sisters, but actually we wanted I have to face the fact that we wanted very different things, and maybe she just went after it,
Yeah.
so.
I want to pick up on what you just said and dive in a little deeper on that because that was very interesting to me in this book as well. We've talked about how they wanted something more than this small
Mhm.
town life that they were living and how they talked about saying yes to everything. But a pregnancy for Lark changed all that. And I wanted to ask you, were you kind of showing how they had two different paths in life? There was a road taken and then there was a road that was blocked and literally a road taken. And I was wondering if you were kind of playing with that theme throughout the story.
I definitely was. I think that was sort of the moment that they had found themselves at right when the story opens, when Mickey accepts that ride. They've always kind of had this devil may care approach, but Mickey's always wanted out of this town more than Lark. Lark just would kind of go along with whatever Mickey wants. And, she doesn't she doesn't have a burning urge to stay, but she's also not colossally unhappy there the way that Mickey is. She'd be happy wherever she is, as long as she's with someone that she loves. She has a very different personality. She doesn't have that ambition. And so I think her finding out that she's pregnant, she found out she was pregnant right before Mickey takes this ride. And for Mickey, it's kind of like, this might be my last hurrah because I'm going to be there for my friend who needs me, but it definitely changes things for both of them. And it has to be a factor as well, where Lark has in the back of her mind a worry that maybe that's why she left, because she knew she was about to feel stuck there with her.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
that
it's
was
definitely a huge factor for both of them. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it was such an interesting theme because I think we all can relate to that. There's the roads not taken in life. There's the roads that maybe were blocked, perhaps because we became parents or something else. But you do spend a little bit of your life wondering about that road not taken, don't you?
Yeah, and it's kind of like how we say our friends are like a sister or like a brother, but they're really maybe not. You know, they're a very close friend, but it's not ever going to be quite the same. And it's the same way, you know, Lark knows from the start that the father of this baby is not going to be in the picture, and they kind of have this joke that Mickey's going to be the father of the baby, but she's not. You know, she's not obligated in that way. There is a difference. So
Yeah,
yeah, the things
absolutely.
we owe each other and the things we want for each other and for ourselves. Yeah, it's a big
And
tangled
didn't
up into the themes of this book.
I also felt it made us realize, and we probably already do, but it reminded us that sometimes we have friendships that we think are more important than the friend thinks is important.
Mm,
And this sort of happened to Lark. You know, was I thinking that she meant more to me than what I meant to her? And this is just real life, maybe too, because without the blood family tie, these friendships are chosen and they can be dropped. It's interesting.
and we're not set up in a society to really recognize that bond either. I think if you feel that a lot if you lose a friend. I lost one of my closest friends at an early age, and you're grieving this person who was really close to you, but everyone expects you to just get over it and get back to what you were, you know, what you were doing. It's not set up as any sort of thing where people would think you would need bereavement leave, or it would still be really weighing on you 6 months later or a year later. You know, it's not the same. It's not recognized as the same as a family member or something like that, but we can be a huge part of other people's lives for a really long time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know this discussion is going to pique the interest of readers because we've touched on just a few of the topics you were exploring. And of course, it's entertaining and beautifully written, as all of your books are. So we are excited to talk to you about this one. We're wondering if you can give us a little bit of a hint of what's on your radar, maybe what you're doing next.
I actually can't.
Oh, we know it's going to be good.
I'm not at liberty to say what I'll be doing next. So for right now,
Okay.
I'm just kind of trying to be in the moment and focus on this one and hopefully have some news in the coming year.
Oh, we can't wait. We're going to keep an eye on that. Of course, we always do. And we want to tell the listeners how to get in touch with you. I know they're going to want to. You have a beautiful website at jessicastrawser.com. You've got discussion guides on all of your past books. They
Yes,
can connect with you right on X, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. And again, we're just so grateful that you came on the show again. We love when authors return. And we hope that you do again in the future to talk about whatever that next project is.
I would love to. Thanks so much for having me back and for all the support for Catch You Later. And yes, I love hearing from readers. I'm super accessible online. I'm on most platforms. I'm at Jessica Strawser author and probably procrastinating when I'm supposed to be doing next. So that
That's
was
okay. That's okay because you're writing.
That's
exactly.
right. We love it.
Thank you, Jessica.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Such a wonderful thing to see Jessica Strawser again. I mean, I remember the last book and how much we loved it. And this one is the same, just filled with relationship issues and relatable topics. And it did hit me hard that these two women were best friends. And I like how Jessica said, why does our society not accept friendship as important as family? Because for me, having moved quite a bit, my friends become my family when family's absent. But I never realized that. I guess this is a societal issue.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's true. But I love that she was talking about how we compare something beautiful and something close to being like family, because that's exactly what it is. It's a strong bond. You love this person, you are for them, you're in their corner, and it's all the best parts of family. And you get to choose that in a friend.
Mhm. I
So
like
I
that.
agree with you.
And I liked your question too about that was an important question, the last one about when you take different pathways, especially this is the most difficult, I think, when you're all young together and you're in school or in college or you're just starting out, nobody has anything. And then you're veering off into much different pathways. But to be respectful of what someone else is doing and try not to compare and to not be angry, maybe that they're leaving you, that's
Yeah.
tricky.
Yep. And I don't know about you, but even as recently as 2 days ago, I was like, "What about that road not taken? Should I have gone in that direction in my life and in my career?" And I think we all do that to some extent, whether it's a relationship or professionally or a school that we chose. You go on a trajectory and you can see where you went in one direction where you could have easily gone in another direction, maybe a better one, I don't know.
Well, I think that's just
So
age with wisdom. Hindsight is always 2020. And we say, this is great where I am, but if I had done a few different things in the beginning, I might be better off right now. And I think we all do it. We all do it.
absolutely. Well, I want to tell our listeners about some of the other fantastic authors that we have coming up. Chris, this is a very long list. I'm just going to highlight a few of them, but they are fantastic this fall and winter lineup. We have Preston and Child, Angel of Vengeance, Jamie Brenner, A Novel Summer, Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella Maldonado with Fatal Intrusion, Fran Littlewood, Amazing Grace Adams, Brian Freeman. He's coming on again for Robert Ludlum, The Born Shadow, Amy Runyon with Mademoiselle Eiffel, Shelley Noble, The Colony Club, Amy Neff, The Days I Loved You Most, and MP Woodward for Tom Clancy's Shadow State, Lori Frankel with Family, Jessica Hagedorn, Dog Eaters, Helena Eklund, Clever Little Thing, Victor Methos, The Silent Watcher, Graham Brown, writing for the Clive Cussler Foundation, Desolation Code, Amel El Motar, The River Has Roots. And listeners, thank you for listening and tuning in. We ask that you continue to share our links. We grow every week. We've got 90 plus countries and territories, all 50 US states, 1,900 cities where we have regular listeners. We just love it. We are thankful. And for those of you tuning in, you can find us on Facebook. We are on Instagram, on X. You can find us at bookstormpodcast.com. And you can see us on YouTube along with these fabulous authors. I named just a few. We've got a whole lot of them. Till next time, listeners, one of the best ways to brave the storm is to dive down deep into life-changing fiction.